bought himself a gift as a gift to me. So I did the same. This happened a couple of Christmases ago, but someone told me to post this story here, so here I am. About 4 months before Christmas 2018, my boyfriend at the time accidentally spilt a drink on his laptop and wrecked the thing. He couldn't afford a new one and it was his main source of entertainment, so I said he could borrow minutes since I didn't use it that often. Everything was fine until Christmas that year. He still hadn't gotten a new laptop by that point, but I assumed that was because he was saving up to get himself a decent laptop rather than a crappy one he could just about afford. Anyway, he handed me my gift and to my surprise it was a brand new laptop. I assumed that he bought me a laptop to replace my old one and was going to take my old laptop for himself. Nope. His gift to me was buying himself a new laptop so that he didn't have to use mine anymore. Nothing else. Just that. I was outraged. But then a petty thought crossed my mind. Little did he know that I'd fallen into a bit of money, so I had decided to surprise him with a top-of-the-range gaming laptop which was easily more than double the price and quality of the one that he bought himself. So I decided to give him his present. When he opened it, his eyes lit up and he looked so excited at the prospect of his new laptop, but when he started to open it I took it back from him and told him that it was actually for me and my gift was letting him keep his new laptop without me trying to use it all of the time. Of course we got into a massive argument and that eventually led to us breaking up. Thankfully we exchanged gifts a few days before Christmas so the day wasn't ruined. I returned the laptop and used the money to go on a spontaneous holiday with my friend for New Year's Eve. No regrets. Take the car I paid for? Good luck finding the dead fish in it. When I was 15 I began working, and by the time I was 17 I had enough money to buy my first car. Me being young, when my egg donor and stepdad said they were titling it in their name, for insurance and registration purposes, I didn't question it. 6 months later, they're divorcing. When the divorce is finalized, my egg donor informs me that my car, that I paid for, was going to my ex-stepdad in the divorce, since it showed a joint property between them. I was furious. The car looked nice on the exterior, but burned through a quart of oil every 2 days, and drove like crap, but it was still my car. The week before my ex-stepdad was due to pick it up, I quit putting oil in it. I drove around town extra that week. I was that smoke cloud in town of burning oil. To top off my revenge, my friend had a goldfish die. It was a pretty big fish, 3 to 4 inches long. I asked for it. The morning of the car being taken, July mind you, I cut the yellow foam beneath the passenger seat. The foam was sticky, abrasive, and resealed easily due to the stickiness. I cut the foam, and stuffed the dead fish into the padding, and pushed it as far over as I could. Then the foam stuck back together nicely. He showed up with his girlfriend was the mistress, thus causing the divorce, and he made a big show of giving her my car as a gift to her. I just smiled. I wish I knew how well the car went over, hours later, in the hot July weather, but I can imagine. Edit, egg donor is my bio mother, but she doesn't deserve any recognition in my life other than contributing genetic material. My bio dad is a wonderful, amazing person who was dragged through the coals for child support. He paid $150 a week in 1987, plus insurance. 50% of all insurance co-pays, had to do an additional $150 each child for school clothes, pay for school lunches, fees, and book rental. He worked 8 to 12 hours a day as a plumber, and part-time in a factory. He had nothing, and couldn't go into a futile court case with my egg donor, since back then the state didn't give custody to dads. I never told him about my life at her house, since I didn't want him to worry. Thanks for the awards. Sister always steals my food. I make a fool of myself on her graduation to stop her. I come from a family of 6, my parents, my older sister, my older brother, my little brother, and me. Often, in order to bribe us into good behavior, our parents would buy us our favorite candy to munch on in the car. Now, I've never exactly been a giving person, not huge on sharing just for the sake of sharing. My parents, however, were trying to raise respectful and generous kids, and often forced me to share things even when I didn't want to. That's all fine and good, except that my sister abused this system. See, she would say she didn't want a bag of candy, then once we were on the road she'd start taking candy from all three of the brothers. That really pissed me off. I didn't get candy often, as my mum didn't like feeding us sugary food. So when I got my own bag of Sour Patch watermelon I wanted to eat every last one myself. Besides, my parents would always offer to buy her a bag of candy for herself. She would just refuse because she knew she could leech off the rest of us. So after a point I started refusing her requests for candy. But that shit didn't fly with my mom, because that was being selfish, so she would force me to hand over the candy. One time I even said when I purchased my bag at CVS, "Sister, I'm not going to give you any of my candy. If you want Sour Patch, buy your own right now." "I'm fine," she responded, "I don't want a whole bag of candy." Fast forward 20 minutes into the car ride, my father was requisitioning a candy to give to my sister, as I sat fuming. This went on for years. My whole life, really. And I hated it. I would hide my candy when I got it, I would try and keep it out of her reach, but always a parent would intervene. Fast forward to my sister's college graduation. She is now 22, I am a senior in high school at this point. And we're up at her school at a fancy-ass restaurant celebrating after she had graduated that morning. In attendance are all immediate and some extended family, some close friends of my sister, and her long-term boyfriend who I was meeting for the first time. So, enough people for the following to be embarrassing to my family. Our meal ends and my mother offers to buy a nice dessert for anyone who wants it. My brothers, my dad and I all take her up on it. I ordered a vanilla bean cheesecake with a burnt sugar bird's nest on top. My mother repeatedly offers to buy my sister anything she wants, but my sister says she couldn't possibly eat a full dessert right now, and turns it down every time. The food arrives, and everyone is staring at mine. I'm sitting right at the head of the table in full view of everyone, so it's hard not to look, and aside from the cake slice being large and delicious looking, the burnt sugar bird's nest is huge and ornate, hollow on the inside like an effing old-timey brass globe or some shit. Honestly, it was pretty impressive. And right as the food gets placed in front of us, my sister says, "I'll just have a bite of everyone's." At this point, I'm seeing red, having flashbacks to all the times my food has been stolen. Logically, the right thing to do would have been to just hand over one bite. I mean, it was her graduation, it was a huge cake, it would have been no loss. But it had become a matter of principle. So, the moment she says this, in one fell swoop, in full view of everyone at the table, I sweep up my slice of cheesecake and stuff the entire thing into my mouth at once, shattering the sugar nest, crumbs falling everywhere, in front of my whole family and some college students close to my sister who, again, never met in my life. My sister stares, appalled, and says, "Did you do that just so I wouldn't get any?" And I look at her, cheeks ballooning out like a chipmunk, face covered in cheesecake and graham, dead in the eyes and nod. There was a fair bit of shocked silence, at that moment and in the very tense car ride home. But to this day she never asks for anything from me anymore. TLDR sister always steals my desserts, so I shoved an entire piece of cake in my mouth in front of strangers and family alike to prevent her from getting any. Edit, my first gold. Damn, I should stuff my face with cake more often. Edit 2. Hi Sean Mug. I cut my lawn in random directions because it makes my neighbor crazy. Neighbor is a retired 70-something former preacher or pastor or whatever. He's also a judgmental prick who, despite not living in a neighborhood with an HOA, makes weekly rounds through the neighborhood looking for any minor code violations, things like flowers that are overhanging onto the sidewalk by an inch or two, etc. He can report to the city to get the owners fined. He mows his lawn twice per day during the summer and has a bed of green that would make Hank Hill cream himself. I take pride in my yard, but it's 70% native plants and wildflowers with a small patch of grass in the front. I don't water the grass because pouring water on the ground seems stupid to me, but it, along with a healthy mix of other stuff, comes in pretty full and there aren't any bare spots anyway. I mow every 5 days, less if we're in a dry spell and it grows slower. Anyway, when I get out there, I cut all the grass, but with a focus toward leaving a path that is as baffling as possible. Sometimes I will attempt to checkerboard and then veer off into spirals, other times I will approach with an even more abstract eye. The grass doesn't seem to mind and I enjoyed the challenge of thinking of new ways to traverse the lawn. Today I saw my neighbor standing out front with his F-up grandson that got sent to live with him for some reason. He was complaining to him about something, throwing his hands up in the air, clearly very exasperated. Then he gestured toward my lawn and then made a little spiral gesture while contorting his face in disgust. I don't know exactly what he said, but I imagine he was lecturing him about how if he didn't get his life together he'd end up like me, the neighbor with the weird lawn. Small victories, you know? Tailgate and honk on a single-lane street, how'd that work out for you? This happened a few months ago as I was driving my work van, the biggest Mercedes Sprinter you can drive without a commercial license, around Amsterdam delivering groceries. This story takes place on a single-lane road with high curbs on both sides that takes you from one neighborhood to another. Speed limit is 50 km/h, although it could have been 70 in my humble opinion except in some tight corners. Now I've driven here so many times before that I feel comfortable doing 60ish, just a bit faster than normal without the risk of getting caught speeding in an urban area. Suddenly I hear a loud beep behind me, and wouldn't you know it, it's a BMW. What a surprise. I think to myself. I was quite impressed by my ability to guess the brand of this automobile, because everything forward of the rear doors wasn't visible in my mirrors. The tailgating and honking continues for a little while until I spot the perfect opportunity to teach this IKEA pencil-equipped douche lesson, a long straight section in the road. For those of you who haven't been to the Netherlands before, our government loves two things, taxes and using those taxes to build speed bumps. As such we have a wide variety of speed bumps and this straight section was equipped with my personal favorite, the bus bypass variant, a trapezoid block just wide enough that a normal car has to pee over it with at least one wheel, but a bus can pass over it unobstructed. I've had plenty of practice with these obstacles and line up for a flawless pass while accelerating to a mind-numbing 70 km/h, the BMW still glued to my rear bumper. I pass over the obstacle without the slightest inconvenience. The oblivious BMW driver however hits it in the worst possible way, launching himself into the ceiling of his car and grinding his oil pan as the suspension compresses. After that he kept a good distance,